meeting of the Winterville Town Council for October 12, 2020 in order. We'll stand and have indication by Councilman Moore.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this great city, great for this country. Be with us during these terrible times in our lifetime. This pandemic has been tough on all of us. So give us all strength, oh Father. Thank you for all you do, and be with us tonight. And last, they took a special prayer for our mayor. Hope he'll return as soon as possible. And he comes home this week. Thank you for that blessing. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now, if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I welcome everyone to our meeting for October 12, 2020, this meeting of the Winterville Town Council. It's good that we're here. We know what the things that our community is facing, and we've been able to weather the storm so far with those things. We are very glad that our mayor is doing better, and just send our thoughts and prayers to his family, and we just thank God for his improvement in his condition. We'll move on with the approval of the agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may just remind council to, if you'll pull your mics a little closer and speak directly on into the head of the mic, that would be great.
Make a motion we approve the agenda.
I second it. Ricky Hines second the motion.
It's been moved by Councilman Moore and seconded by Councilman Hines to approve the agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, I will poll the board. I will start with Councilman Moy.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Hines.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Robertson.
Yes.
I believe we have all votes in the affirmative to approve the agenda as presented.
Now we're down to our public hearings. Brian, are you going to present first for these?
Mayor Pro Tem Robertson, before Brian gets started, I believe Don would like to give you some introductory statements, just a reminder about our public hearings.
Okay.
As you can see, we have 4 public hearings tonight, and with each of those, as we've been doing because we have a remote member, all of the public hearings will be contingent, need to be contingent upon a 24-hour comment period from the time the end of this meeting. So as we've been doing, you all can, whatever is your pleasure, but they will need to be contingent on a 24-hour contingency.
And that is 24 hours at the conclusion of this, starting at the conclusion of this meeting.
Correct.
And that means all public comments should be in by tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, right?
At the conclusion of this meeting, so we will announce the time with which we adjourn, and that will start the 24-hour comment period.
Okay. All right. I will now open our public hearing on Eli's Ridge. Phases 1, 3, the annexation.
Okay. All right, thank you. Can you test yet? Thank you, guys. Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board, always a pleasure to be in front of you. So, as stated, the first public hearing is for the annexation of Eli's Ridge Phases 1 and 3. So the applicant is Bill Clark Homes of Greenville, LLC. It's located out on Worthington Road. It's east of its intersection with Old Tar Road. It's a portion of parcel 84754. total tract total subject tract is 18.38 acres, and the current zoning district is R10. So we did send out notifications to the adjacent property owners. On September 28th, and the public hearing was published, notice for the public hearing was published in the Daily Reflector on September 30th and October 7th. Sorry guys, we're trying to make sure our screen's being shared.
We're having technical difficulties.
Okay, got it now. So there's your property there outlined in blue. That's the whole parcel. And actually so you'll see the outline there of the portion that's being petitioned for annexation. So this will be a portion of phases 1 and phase 3. This will include about 40 lots on the final plats. That'll be the actual amenity center and the pump station. So you'll see both of those in the first, in this annexation. But with that, I'll answer any questions. And if there are none, I'll hand it over to you, Madam Pro Tem, for the public hearing.
Any questions for Brian? As far as public comments now, anyone want to speak in favor of? Anyone in opposition? So I can close the public hearing? So we'll
I
close-
believe so.
Okay. We'll close the public hearing on Eli's Ridge.
Make a motion, we accept it contingent upon the 24-hour period at conclusion.
I'm sorry, say that again, Councilman
Make a
Moore.
motion, we approve this annexation.
I'll Ricky Hines, I second that.
It's been moved by Councilman Moore and seconded by Councilman Hines to accept this annexation. Do the poll.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem, I will begin the poll. Councilman Moy, you will need to unmute yourself, but I will start with you.
Moore, yes.
Councilman Moore,
Yes.
Councilman Hines,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Robertson.
Yes.
I believe we have votes all in favor of approval of this annexation contingent upon any comments received over the 24-hour period starting at the conclusion of tonight's meeting.
Our second public hearing is R.E. Davenport property rezoning request.
Okay, thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I'll get it straight in a second. So the applicant for the rezoning request is R.E. Davenport, and that property is at the intersection of NC 903 South and NC 11 South. The parcel number is 05590. Total site acreage is 43.69 acres. So the current zoning district is agricultural residential, and the proposed zoning district is general business. Current land use character area as defined in our comprehensive land use plan is mixed use center. So the adjacent property owners were mailed notification of this rezoning request on September 28th of this year, and notification was published in the Daily Reflector on September 30th and October 7th, and notification was posted on this site back in July 31st. So you can see on your screen there, the property in question is outlined in blue. So you've got the northern part of, north of 903 and south of 903. Just showing you an actual map of the rezoning request. So here's our current zoning. You can actually see the outline in blue, all agriculture residential, but interesting is there's already portions of this property zoned as general business, and general business down to the south of it, and industrial to the north.
Is the house included?
Yes, sir.
The house is included.
Yes, sir. And actually that, so you'll go back one. So that actual spot on the southeast corner up here, or the northeast corner, would be where the house is now. So it's already technically general business.
Does anybody live in the house at this time?
I think he's got it rented, yes, sir.
Do they have to move out once it's?
Councilman Moore.
Do
If
they
you,
have to move out?
just directly into the head of the mic.
Okay.
There you go.
It keeps going dead, that's what I was.
No.
So the question would be, would they have to move out? No, not at this time. So essentially, it's a non-conforming use. If it doesn't become any more non-conforming, then nothing will change. If they started trying to do something different than what they're doing now, then potentially yes. But we'd have to look at that when it comes about.
Will the utility rate change for the house?
I wouldn't think so, considering it's already general business. So it's already technically general business, and it's sitting in that zone right now. But it's a residential use, and that's what the utility billing should be based on.
The reason I asked that years ago, we talked about the demand on the house. So I need to probably present this to Mr. Sutton, Utilities Director. We have
Sure.
a demand meter on it this time.
Okay.
Mr. Sutton? Is Mr. Sutton available? Is there a demand meter on this house once it's already been moved to be general business? Is there a demand meter on this house at this time?
I'm sorry.
Is there a demand meter on the house?
So
The house that's on the property we're looking at.
So Robert, if you'll look at the map behind you, so it'll be that house right there on the corner of,
I don't believe so. I think it's just a standard residential meter.
But you have to change it, correct, since it's already general business.
It would need to be changed.
Robert, how about speak,
It'd be a demand, depending on the size of the service. If it's a 200 or, we can go up to a 400 amp panel without a demand or requiring demand charges.
I had an air conditioned 1,700 square foot building, and I had a demand meter on it.
It all depends on the
Okay.
profile, strictly on the profile.
Is this going out again? These weak batteries.
I think you have to talk, directly into the head of that mic to hear it in the best way possible.
you almost have to touch it, Councilman Moore.
Yeah.
Well, the light goes on and off.
So Robert, and if, I don't mean to, I'm gonna take the liberty of kind of maybe explaining. So are you asking if the use or the billing would change just because of the zoning, right? So does the billing change because of the zoning district or the use itself?
It'll be the use itself. A residential structure has a different rate structure than a commercial would.
So at this point, it's still a residential structure. They'll still be getting residential rates
They absolutely would.
unless something changes. Right. I think that's what.
So in other words, it just stay the same, Robert, right now.
Provided-
Only thing we'll be changing is just the coding, right, Brian?
Right.
And until they start building something different, that's when the meter would change specifically, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We look strictly at the use of the
Right.
facility, of the building.
Okay. As long as
Even
it's-
if it were in a commercial area, if it was serving a residential purpose, it would still be billed as at a residential rate.
Okay, right now. So as long as they're staying there and using it as a residential area until it changes, even though we're gonna change it to commercial, as long as they're staying there using it as a residential until they move out, then we'll change it over.
It would continue, provided that, for the length of their stay.
Right.
And its use
Okay.
as a residential facility, it would be treated with a residential meter and corresponding residential rate.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is the entire area in our district,
It is now, yes.
in our utility district? I know we have power lines along 903, but not along the back side where the sewer line's at. We don't have that yet.
We do not, but we could service that area. And we look forward to doing
Yeah,
so.
we don't have service across the street, do we? On the south side of the property, 9.65 acres on the south side of the road.
Well, our lines will service both sides of
Both sides.
903.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Yes, I have one question. Can you hear me, Terry?
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
My question is, I think I had asked this question one time before, and I just want to make sure that I have a better understanding on this. It says that we support the one of the transformation from a bedroom community to a neighborhood community. I just want to make sure I understand the difference between those two type identity.
Yeah, sure, and it's a great question. So, and it's actually from a bedroom community. So traditionally, a bedroom community is you're looked upon as people just leaving an area and coming to actually sleep in a house and then leave that house in the morning and go back to work somewhere else. So the comprehensive land use plan, you know, one of our goals and policy statements is that we're trying to become more than a bedroom community. We want to become a neighboring community. So that means we have our own we have our own income here. Like if people come here to work, people stay here to work. So we're not leaving. We're not losing those employment opportunities. We're not losing those retail opportunities to Greenville or to anywhere else. So and I think hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Anyone to speak in favor of? Any opposition?
My only comment is, it is a large tract for general business.
It is, and I've still got some more slides. You want me to go through them?
And I remember serving on the steering committee, and some of the possibilities for that area were really, really nice. And there would be something different for our community, something that I think the people, the millennials that we talk about, would welcome. You know, we don't have many areas built for them. And even the people that are moving here, retiring, or something for all of us that would be different in our community if this area was developed in this way. So, all right.
Folks, I think if you would like to see it, I think Brian has a couple more slides.
Yeah, we got just some more information for you guys. So here's our existing land use map. It's being used as agricultural land, so basically it's vacant for better. Just some photos of the area. You can see that being farmed right now. That's the north side, and that's looking back toward Aden, down on the south side. So the future land use plan, it does call for a mixed use, or as a mixed use character area. So that mixed use character area or mixed use center is, so it's a mix of commercial, retail, restaurants, and service-oriented businesses. So there will be a variety of residential, or could be a variety of residential options. That could include multifamily, townhomes, upper story residential, and that's what Ms. Robertson was just talking about as far as that in the land use plan. It does show some options for that type of kind of mixed use, but it would give just that mix of a good commercial, retail, restaurants, and all that good stuff. So, and here just a better breakout. You can see just some potential of what those storefronts would look like, and your potential zoning is a central business and general businesses mixed in there as well. So when we always want to look at our impacts and policy analysis and our recommendations and implementation part of the plan. So obviously we want to encourage non-residential growth in the form of retail, restaurants, professional offices, and industrial development.
Mr. Jones,
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, my question is, I see on the special information part, they said that the stream feature located along the northern corridor of the portion is buffered along the Noble Canal.
Yes, sir.
We already have problems on the area. Are we going to do anything to improve the situation before all of this addition is being made? Because if we do not, we're going to cause, as far as I'm concerned, it would increase the situation that we already have.
Yeah, 100%. So during a site development of this site, we would look at that. Obviously, it's a buffered stream, so it wouldn't be allowed to impact the stream, and then any type of discharge into that stream would have to be approved by the state. So they would have to engineer any type of discharge into that to make sure it doesn't increase any type of deterioration of those slopes or anything like that. So it would be part of our site review on a staff level and a development review committee. Yes, sir.
Yes, but we already has been aware of the large cost factor behind this situation. Will that be part of what we have been addressing in the past about this problem that we have on this canal?
So I guess the best answer I can give is once we have a site development plan submitted, we'll ensure that any type of BMPs or any type of discharge in there is permitted properly and is not going to be detrimental to that stream for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
So we always want to look at our economic development as well. And we always want to try to support Winterville as a transformation, just what we were talking about earlier, Councilman Moy, into transformation from a bedroom community into a neighboring community. So that just means improving our self-sufficiency, reducing our retail leakage. So we want to try to keep our focus on business recruitment, expansion, and retention, and encourage and support local businesses. And obviously a general business commercial zone would do that for us. So Planning Board and staff recommendations, the Planning and Zoning Board did unanimously recommend approval of this at their August 17th, 2020 meeting. Planning staff finds the request is reasonable and is in the public interest because proposed zoning district is compatible with the surrounding land uses and the future land use plan. So staff does recommend approval of the request to rezone 43.69 acres from agricultural residential to a general business. And with that, I'll answer any questions, and if there are none, we're ready for the public hearing.
Now we're ready for any speakers?
We're ready to open the public hearing, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Open the public hearing for the rezoning request. Anyone speaking in favor of?
So if nobody wants to speak in favor via Zoom, I did have one email in support of it, and with your permission, I'll read that email. This is an adjacent property owner, Thomas McLawhorn, and quote, "I enthusiastically support Mr. Davenport's rezoning request. For some time, I have believed this property is key to new business development on the west side of Highway 11 along Highway 903. I view this as an opportunity to stimulate desirable, sustainable new development at the west side entrance to Winterville Central Business District and to spur the quality of growth that will contribute to the long-term prosperity of the total community," end quote.
Anyone speaking in opposition? I now declare the public hearing closed. What is the board's pleasure?
Move for approval and the afterwards 24-hour period to be included later on of property to general business.
Recognize second.
We've had a motion by Mr. Moore, seconded by Mr. Hines, to approve this rezoning request. Do the poll.
Okay, if we're ready, I will start with Councilman Moy.
Approve it.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Hines.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robertson.
Yes.
And we are pleased to add to the voting poll Councilman Smith.
Yes.
So I believe we have all votes in favor of approving said rezoning request. A contingent upon the 24-hour comment period, which begins at the conclusion of tonight's meeting.
We will now move to the public hearing, F&A construction rezoning request.
All right. So this rezone request has been applied for by F&A Construction. They are the property owners of the property at the northeast corner of Laura Ellis Road and Old Tar Road. That parcel number is 55092. It's 5.932 acres. And that's just a part of the total tract, so only 5.932 acres is going for rezoning. So the current zoning is agricultural residential, and they are, sorry about that, and they are applying, are requesting neighborhood commercial, and the future land use character area for this area is neighborhood center. So notification was posted on this site June 30th of 2020, and adjacent property owners were mailed notification on September 28th, and the notification was published in the Daily Reflector on September 30th and October 7th. So here's your property here. There's the total tract outline in blue. Here's the rezoning map. So we're focused just on that left side, over here. I'll outline it a little bit better right here. So just the property outlined or highlighted in yellow. So a feature on site, we just want to note, it's kind of peculiar to this property because it kind of makes it interesting with that triangle on top. But that stream feature is a buffered feature, so you'll have 50 foot on either side. So it particularly comes into play on the triangle piece because you'll have buffers kind of squeezing that in there. So here's a photo of the property. You can just see it's vacant right now. It's used for agricultural purposes. So the current zoning is AR. Existing land use map, so it just shows it being vacant. So here's our future land use plan. And you can see here our node showing that neighborhood center. The rest of the property would be urban neighborhood. For the neighborhood center, context appropriate commercial, retail, services, professional offices, and occasionally residential located at key locations and crossroads that serve the general neighborhood around them. Some small lot residential or patio homes or attached residential could be part of the land use mix. So just some more details. You can kind of see what the examples of what could go there would look like on the pictures there. But potential zoning would be general business and central neighborhood.
Can you get back to the slide before that was showing the definition? So are you saying that they can put small lot residential patio homes in that?
Potentially, yes, sir. So in the commercial neighborhood, and actually the way our zoning ordinance is set up right now, the only thing in commercial neighborhood, there wouldn't be any option to do it that way. So, and that's one of the things we were looking at when we did our land use plan, to go back and when we do our comprehensive land use plan, that kind of spurs amending the zoning ordinance for those allowances. And the way it's set up right now, the table of permitted uses wouldn't allow for residential in a neighborhood center or our commercial neighborhood.
So just a clarification, I'll ask again.
No.
They absolutely could not put that in that area?
Not right now, no, sir. They cannot. In that zoning district, they could not do residential. As our table of permitted uses stands right now, the zoning ordinance would not allow it. So going through our recommendations and implementations from the land use plan, kind of the same as we went through last time, encouraging a balanced tax base. So we want to encourage that non-residential growth in the form of retail, restaurants, and professional offices and industrial development. Encourage walkable and mixed-use development, so small-scale office, service, or restaurants allowed in that urban neighborhood areas and locations with good access. Obviously, an intersection would have good access. So economic development strategies, again, trying to improve that self-sufficiency and reduce retail leakage, and transforming that from a bedroom community to a neighboring community in Greenville.
How far is this from the gas utility that Greenville Utilities put along out in the air?
I'm not exactly sure the exact distance, but I would say
2/10 of a mile.
easily, I was going to say a quarter of a mile. So
Not very far.
yeah, it's not very far. It's just to the south of it, but not too far, but far enough, I would think. I mean, you never know it was there for sure. So, focusing on business recruitment, expansion, and retention, and encouraging and supporting local businesses. So, based on Councilman Smith's question from last meeting, I did want to kind of give a table of permitted uses, just kind of give a snapshot of everything. So, when we look at our table of permitted uses, this zoning district allows for about 90 uses, which sounds like a lot, but when you compare it to a general business district, general business district actually allows for about 400 uses. So it's about a little less than a quarter of what the actual general business would open it up to. So I don't want to read through all these, but you can kind of get a feel of what we're looking at. So when you're looking at education and institutional uses, you're looking at pretty much your standard run-of-the-mill government offices, libraries, post office, accounting, would be a business. So an example of a business or a professional would be accounting. You can get down into banking, barber and beauty shops would be allowed. You could do law offices, dry cleaning facilities, something like that. Dental offices. You can see offices where they're not classified elsewhere. So just general office buildings. So service stations, which wouldn't include a truck stop, so they would be able to put a convenience store at that intersection. Retail trade, so basically when you're looking at the retail trade part of the table of permitted uses, it's going to be that small scale retail trade, nothing like an anchor store or a big box store or anything like that. So you can see just, and the list goes on, and I can go through all these as you guys desire me to. But you do have retail sales and services where not classified elsewhere. Restaurants, they wouldn't be able to have a restaurant with a drive-through though, so that would be the big kicker there. So it wouldn't be a fast food place or anything like that. You can have public works stuff, so if we needed to have some type of public works facility there, they could do that. Any questions on that? So planning board did recommend, unanimously recommend approval at the August 17th planning and zoning board meeting. Planning staff finds the request is reasonable and in the public interest because the proposed zoning district is compatible with the surrounding land uses and the future land use plan. So staff does recommend approval of the request to rezone 5.392 acres from agricultural residential to commercial neighborhood.
Folks, you may want to make sure your microphones are awake before we start talking.
Okay, more testing.
We can hear you, Councilman Moy.
I do have a question also.
Okay?
The total tract was 16.51 acres that they have altogether, but they just want to rezone 5.329. Do they have any idea of what they plan on doing with the rest of that acres?
So I've talked, and I think so. Scott Anderson with Art Consultants on the Zoom call. If he'd probably be the best one to talk to, but there have been some talks of some uses over there. But I'll let Scott answer that question.
Any other questions from the board?
I believe we're looking for Mr. Anderson.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, sir. The owner does have some plans to for residential uses on the remainder of that parcel.
Councilman Moore, you're on mute, just FYI.
Yes, I hear what he said. Thank you.
So, Mr. Anderson, this is Councilman Hines. So the other about 10 acres or so, he's looking possibly maybe, you saying residential or something of that nature?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Now, ready for,
If there are no further comments, I believe you can open the public hearing.
I now open the public hearing for the F&A construction rezoning request. Anyone that would like to speak in the affirmative?
I'll just, this is Scott Anderson with our consulting group. I'd just like to say that, we appreciate the opportunity to present this request. We worked with the town staff to make sure that the request is in conformance with the land use plan. And as Brian stated, the request meets several of the town's stated goals. The adjacent roadways have adequate capacity to accommodate a development of this scale, and there are adequate utilities to support this proposed development. And I'll be happy to answer any further questions that you may have.
Which would be the front, Old Tar Road or Laurie Ellis Road?
Old Tar would be the primary front.
Would DOT require you to have a turning lane?
More than likely, yes.
Brian, is that correct too?
Yes, sir. I believe so. At the site development stage, when we send that out to review, it'd be more than likely they're going to require that for sure.
More than likely, but is it in our rules and regulations, a turn lane be required?
So that is a DOT state maintained road, that would be their call. But
I'm not being negative, but if you look at Laurie Ellis Road with all those cuts, that's my concern.
I 100% agree, and I think I don't know exactly what the site plan development that ARC's going to show, but we would highly recommend it be done even if DOT didn't require it.
That could be what, conditional commitment, or what would that be?
Councilman Hines, what did you say?
I'm sorry, would that be conditional commitment, as far as when they submit their plans, or?
Are you saying to put a condition on this rezone request?
Uh-huh.
At this point, it wouldn't be appropriate to do that, no, sir.
Okay, that's the only reason I was asking, okay.
But it could be included in the site plan.
It would most definitely be included in the site plan.
Would
Anyone
the
else?
speed limit change also, I'm assuming? Is the speed limit in front of this property 55?
No, I think it's still 45 right there.
Yeah, it's 45 in that area.
I don't think it changes until south of Laurie Ellis. And I could,
Thank you.
I would ask Mr. Smith, but I think that may not be the case, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
It's somewhere right up in there, I'm not exactly sure. It's either right before or right after, one or the other. I don't go that way very much.
We'll double check that.
Anyone else in the affirmative? Anyone speak against? I now declare the public hearing closed. What is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion.
Councilman Moore, please.
Councilman Bowie made a motion to approve.
Okay.
Ricky Hines has seconded.
Motion's been made by Councilman Moy to approve, seconded by Councilman Hines. Now we'll do the poll.
Okay, be polling the board. We'll start with Councilman Moy.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Hines.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robertson.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
I believe we have all votes in the affirmative in favor of this request, contingent upon any comments that are submitted during the 24-hour comment period, which begins at the conclusion of this meeting.
We'll now proceed with our next public hearing, Al Dunn Taxi Cab Franchise Request.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, I'm going to present the information for the taxi cab franchise. D'Amica Dunn, who is the owner of All Done Transport has requests for a taxi cab franchise. The applicant has submitted his application for approval of the certificate of convenience and necessity. The public hearing was advertised in the Daily Reflector on Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. We have reviewed the ordinances. One of the main things is that he has submitted his application. He has met the requirements according to the ordinance. Chief Wilhite has initially reviewed the application and saw no major problems. Pending the outcome of your all's decision, he would go through with a fine-tooth comb to make sure there were no other reasons why he should not be granted this, if that's your pleasure. His application contained all of the necessary information. One thing that I would say, he does have office space that he's renting downtown in the general business district, and there is adequate parking in that, adjacent to that for his vehicles.
I noticed he's got 3 different addresses. On page 48, it says 2634, number 3B. And then he's got on page 63, 2634, Mill D, letter D. Then on page 68, he's got 2634 Mill Street, Unit 5. That's 3 different addresses. I thought that was a little unusual. Page 48, page 63, and page 68.
Councilman Moore, I will say this, we will verify the appropriate address, but we do know that his business address is on Mill Street, or proposed business address.
But is it residential or is it commercial? He's got 3 different addresses. He's got a D, a room D, a room, says D, then 3B, and then, I'm all for it, just to know which address.
Yeah, so
Can you show us on the map where it's located, which one of these addresses it might be?
it's right, I don't know if I can show you on.
And the service station.
Yeah, it's right behind AutoZone, the Davis property.
AutoZone?
It's the Zeno Allen's old property. If you know that little used to have his offices in there.
Okay.
But it's central business district, so so it is in a taxi terminal is allowed in a central business district.
Right. But just don't know which one it is, the Unit 5, D, or B.
I will get that verified for you.
It says on 6-1 on page 68, 6-1 says it says owner payment received of $500. It says 2634 Mill Street, Unit 5. I think there's two doors that come out to the parking lot. Then there's a door in the back of the building.
Good point. Staff did not catch that, and we're going to have to verify it. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a question, maybe be for Chief or either Brian. When you're doing these taxis or franchises for taxis, do they have to come through, as far as inspections through the police department?
Yes,
and
sir.
everything?
Yes, sir.
And they do it every year, or is it just one-time occurrence, or how did it go?
The most frequent studier of the ordinance is Don. I'm going to defer to him quickly.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, it's a yearly inspection.
Yearly inspection, okay.
questions from council?
Mayor Pro Tem, Ms.
Hey, Terry,
Yes, sir?
this is Councilman Miller. I got one question. My question is, do all the drivers have to have a special permit to drive in our town for this type of business for taxi cab drivers?
The drivers of the company, and I would, Chief Wilhite, who's in the next room, if I get this wrong, let me know, but I believe the drivers have to also go through an approval process. So their information will have to be submitted and reviewed by the police department.
Yes, okay.
The Chief has joined us.
I have, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
And I was going to say that may be the discrepancy that Mr. Moore was talking about. This may be different locations of drivers, but I, like the rest of the staff, didn't catch that. But all the drivers have to be vetted as well as the vehicles.
Thank you, Chief.
On the application, it says 17 animals. On number 17, and it's got to be marked out. What does that mean by animals? That's on page 67. Got animals and everything behind it, or after animals is marked through.
To the best of my knowledge, that is a copy of his agreement, and that would mean, I take that to mean that animals are not allowed in the leased premises.
Just curious.
Any other questions? So now declare the public hearing open.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone that would like to speak in positive? Anyone want to speak against this? I now declare the public hearing closed. What is the board's pleasure?
I make a motion that we accept the request from All Done Taxi Franchise,
And that's contingent upon?
contingent upon checking by Chief Wilhite, subject to
Approval by the police.
approval by the police department.
I second that motion. It's been moved by Councilman Hines, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Robertson, to approve the taxi cab franchise based on the police department's approval. We'll now take a poll of the board.
Okay, I will poll the board. Councilman Moy?
Moore, yes?
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Hines?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robertson?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
I believe we have all votes in favor of approving the taxi cab franchise request by All Done Taxi Cab, pending approval by the Chief of Police and the Police Department, and also contingent upon any comments received during the 24-hour comment period, which begins at the conclusion of tonight's meeting.
All right. Do we have any public comment?
I had received no excuse me. I'm still back on the other one. I apologize. There are no comments.
So I'm not going to read that long descriptor there. Consent agenda, board's pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, it's moved by Councilman Smith, seconded by Councilman Hines to approve the consent agenda. We'll now vote poll the board.
Okay, I will start with Councilman Moy.
Moore, yes?
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Hines? Mayor Pro Tem Robertson?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
We have all votes in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented.
We're now into our old business, 2020 Street Improvements Project Engineering Contract Amendment.
I believe Mr. Williams will be leading us through this discussion.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. That's correct. This is, if you recall, Council previously agreed to modify the streets project that's been ongoing. This is regarding Milton Drive. The original project was mill and overlay that street. However, due to some sampling of the material underneath the asphalt, it was deemed necessary and council approved to pretty much rebuild that street. As a result of that change in scope on the contractor, there's been the need for the engineering consultant, the inspector, to be out there to monitor that additional work. Therefore, the estimated amount for those professional services in the on-site inspection, they've exceeded that budget, and they'll need to have some more compensation to finish out the project. It was originally, that line item was done on an hourly basis, and it was an estimate. And like I said, they've exceeded that, but we're very close to finishing up. They estimate an additional $10,000 would cover that. And as I said, we have pretty much rebuilt the entire street. So if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer.
Mr. Williams,
Yes, sir.
what day was the lowest bid on this project?
Who is that? The engineering consultant?
Yes.
They were the most qualified. They have done, this was a selection. This was not done on a bid. This is a professional service that isn't done on a price proposal. This is done on a qualification selection.
Qualification. Okay. So what, we just use one, is that the firm that we
Well, they
use
have
to do a
been
contract? Is that the firm that we use? Is that the firm that we use to do a contract with every year, or you're talking about one that we have hired? Just to illustrate the project for us.
We have utilized our consulting in the past couple of streets projects. They were involved in when we were working on Gaylord Street, and they've done the 2020 project, and we've been discussing with them the upcoming 2021 round of projects.
Well, the reason why I'm asking this because of, you know, to know that you give me a bid or give me a price or give me a cost,
Right, I think I understand where you're going with this.
yeah, you think, well, you know where I'm going with this. I
do, but as I explained, the original scope that they gave the estimate on was for a simple mill and overlay of the existing street, which takes a couple of days. This effort has, they have pretty much torn out the old asphalt and excavated down 2 feet, have backfilled 18 inches of, or 16 inches of sand, and then add in another 8 of stone, and they're going to have to go back and scratch out the stone surface and repave. So they have gone from, something that would maybe take a week to do, to something that takes a couple of months. So based on that original estimate of $10,000, that was for a simple one. And keep in mind that $10,000 covered the entire streets project, which was not just Milton Street. We had streets all over that we were working on. But when we got to Milton, it was determined and recommended and approved that we rebuild that because of the subgrade was unsatisfactory, and pretty much we would have been wasting money to mill and overlay because that would not have lasted. It would have fallen apart. We'd be right back where we are today a lot sooner than we would like to have been.
Ben, would it be fair to compare this project change, scope change, to Gaylord Street when we worked over there and found that to be much larger of a problem than we
It
initially
is
thought?
identical to that. That is exactly correct. Thank you.
So
So
council,
what you're saying is once you got down in there, you didn't recognize that the problem wasn't as severe than what we thought it was in the beginning. It was a lot worse.
That is correct. The conditions are worse than we thought they were when we entered into the professional services contract, and even before and when we awarded the contract to the contractor. It was not until we got over there and did some core samples and started scratching to figure out that the subgrade was insufficient.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Certainly.
so again, everyone remembers Gaylord. Many of you went to see that project while it was an open cut, to see the gravity, if you will, of the issue. And I believe that this change in scope for this, for Milton Drive, is very similar in nature to that project.
But, I was just thinking, again, aloud to myself, that, it's kind of hard to go out and to estimate or even get bids on a job, and then we turn around and we accept the lowest bid, if we were going to accept the lowest bid, and then it in turn costs us more because we don't know exactly what we're getting into. So actually, the bid that we received and the one that we accept actually was not the lowest bid in some instances. I'm not saying this right here will be the case.
Well, if my memory serves, what we did in the change order for the actual contractor was done on the per unit price. So they held that value constant. So we did continue to receive the lowest qualified bidder's unit price for that type of work.
Okay, good. Okay. And this one here will come from the power bill, is that correct?
That is correct. These are being funded, this project's being paid for through the Powell bill.
I move for approval of the project.
I understand what Mr. Moore is saying. This company were they the ones that did Gaylord Street? Were they the contractors on Gaylord?
No, they're the engineers.
I mean, the engineers. Were they the same?
I don't know, were they the engineers on Gaylord, Ben?
Yes, ma'am.
I think,
Okay.
from my opinion, you expect municipal streets, we should all expect municipal streets to be constructed to the required, details, specifications. And Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't anticipate you're going to open cut and repair a street when you think it's going to be small and then find out that basically there really is no street. It's a layer of asphalt basically over dirt, over time, over a lengthy period of time. And so we oftentimes don't know that until we get into, I think we were horrified when we actually found out the level of work that needed to be done on Gaylord. We're a little bit...
That is correct. That was paved many, many moons ago, and like you said, it was pretty much asphalt laid down on dirt. There was some rock on Milton, and that was built a little bit better. However, it was a mucky mineral substance or dirt, if you will, underneath, and it was not able to hold up. Once the asphalt starts cracking and that water gets down in there, the asphalt and everything starts falling apart. And so that's why we have excavated out and replaced that mucky mineral with sand and brought it back to our current standards, that profile that we require in all new streets, and that we would love for all the old ones to be like, but know that we're in the process and will continue to have to rebuild some of these existing streets to accommodate the traffic and the types of vehicles that travel on them.
I guess my point would be, it is almost impossible to expect that an engineering firm would know what the type of material under a street, well under a street would be. And the intersection of Main and Mill is a great example. The dirt under that intersection, you remember, it sinks routinely. It's just when you have that bad material, you got to try to do your best to get that out, and sometimes we just don't know how bad it is until we are in the project.
Now, what is a lesson learned on a couple of these? We are in this proposal that we are discussing with the upcoming projects. We will be looking at, on some of these older streets that we're looking to rebuild, doing some core samples to try to get an idea of what's in there. But you may get one section that's good, and then a section that was developed later, you may miss a spot. So we're trying to be able to, it costs $5,000 to $10,000 to do those types of coring samples and have the engineer analyze them. However, it would give us a better idea of what the project would need to be when it comes time to design and bid the project. It won't cut down on the cost, because you're going to have to build it the way it needs to be built, whether you know it going in or not. It would just have, I guess, up front, you would know you're looking to spend a certain amount of money or limit the area of the project because you have limited funds, rather than in Chapman Streets, in Gaylord Street, case where we had intended on working on, but we had to cut it back to a third because we had to rebuild that third instead of doing the milling and overlaying as originally proposed.
And also DOT had the same problem with Main Street between Church and Academy. It took them 9 months to fix that little short section.
They're not the kind of surprises that you ever want to uncover, but you do your best to deal with them when you find them.
I understand.
And Boyd Street as well. That was one of the, they had to fix that as well.
I got a motion on the floor to approve the contract amendment.
I second it. It has been moved by Mr. Moore, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Robertson to approve the contract. We'll poll the members.
Okay, Councilman Moy?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Hines? Mayor Pro Tem Robertson?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
We have a vote all in favor of approval of the engineering contract amendment for the 2020 Street Improvements Project contingent, oh, it's not a public hearing. I've said it so often, I was getting ready to say it again. Thank you very much.
New business, pump station rehabilitation project, capital project budget ordinance.
Looking at this project, somebody could be commended, but no interest for 20 years and $500,000. What better deal can you get?
It's a good deal.
I make a motion to approve this.
Second it.
Okay. It's been moved by Mr. Moore, seconded by Mr. Hines to approve this project and its financing. We'll poll the members.
Councilman Moy?
Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Hines?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robertson?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
We have votes all in favor of approval of the capital project budget ordinance for the pump station rehabilitation project. Thank you very much.
Okay. Other agenda items?
Yes, this is Councilman Hines. Again, I'm gonna bring this back up, somehow. This, thing with this multi-purpose site or whatever, we need to figure out what we're gonna do with it. Go another direction, look somewhere else, or just remove this thing altogether. we need to do something with it.
Staff agrees. We're going to
Right.
try to get some concrete answer one way or the other.
Right.
And we will take suggestions for alternate sites. I don't know that we have a really fabulous one for you right now.
Okay. All right. That's all I'm fine.
I had an item just to mention as an agenda item, Veterans Day. I'm a poll of the board. Our Rotary Club will vote on it tomorrow. We would have it outside, of course. Any comments about still having Veterans Day or not having Veterans Day on the Wednesday, November 11th?
I really think we needed to recognize our veterans in our community. I think they look forward to it, and you have such a good attendance from the veterans as well as those of us citizens that go attend the ceremony or the program each year. I know that, you know, we got these guidelines and things about space and stuff, but I do think that we would be able to do our social distance and wear our masks and all that in the space that's involved. You know, the police department closes off that area, the whole intersection that we have it in. Might be, I don't know, you might want to, what do you think about over in the area of the clock?
I thought about the same thing.
I certainly think staff's prepared to work with the
We don't have a
folks.
flag. That's the only problem. I don't have a flag there yet.
We can definitely try to figure something out, but I certainly think we can try to work within the guidelines we currently have and what you all desire to have to try to make something happen.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
It's
It's
easy
a
to walk
nice
around the
event.
clock because for older people to step up on the curb, it's much more difficult. We'd take one person to fall and wonder why we didn't move it over.
I think it's really a nice service, and I appreciate that for our community, honoring our veterans,
All right,
because
thank
they've
you.
given so much.
Councilman Moore will work together on the details.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other agenda items?
Yes, I just got a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
The ones that has not caught up with the utility, where are we standing on that?
I believe Mr. Bowers is with us this evening.
Good evening. Actually, we have, I'm gonna say around 8 customers, payment rate. Majority of the, meeting the obligation. I believe.
Anthony, you might be cutting in and out, so I'm not sure I caught the number of arrangements we've made.
The 88.
88.
That has not paid, so they're paying money. Okay. And once of the balance as of the date. So we only had 5 on our last, not meet the term. So they, and, but other than that, do we have anything in place for those 5?
repeat.
So most have to get help in different entities. There's I'll do something else.
Anthony, unfortunately, you're still cutting in and out, so I think if I could piece together what you said, I think you said that there are resources that folks have utilized to try to help them pay their balance that was accumulated during the time period. Is that correct?
That's correct. I do believe I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to raise. I'm already able to get able to get them back up. Verify that since I've been.
I believe that, as it stands, Anthony's reported we have 88 customers currently on payment plan. We only had a very few that failed to meet their agreed to terms of the payment plan. And many customers have reached out for a variety of help where they could find it. And we can certainly follow up with specific numbers to you in an email after the meeting in the next few days.
What's the period are we giving our clients? But I'm speaking of the 5 that has not met the plan. They were, plan they didn't make it, they didn't want to use. Make the current bill or payment arrangements.
So,
Say it again. They did not meet the current or the payment, and so they were disconnected. Oh, okay, so they are disconnected at this time? Yes, sir, we allow them to turn up a bill on.
I believe Mr. Sutton also included quite a bit of that information in his monthly report. And he asked me to just direct you to his monthly report for some of that information.
Right, I know, I'm not asking for no names or anything like that. I wouldn't dare to ask that. I would just want, that's just for public information, for my knowledge and everybody else. You know, how critical it is for us to at least try to meet the requests that the town has offered them, so that, you know, that at least that if you're trying to at least help us out to take care of this matter, you know, that we all can work together. But it just can't be just a one-sided affair. And I understand what they have done, but I just want to make sure that, you know, that we absorb all avenues that we can do to help our citizens.
Well, I can assure you that staff has worked more than overtime to extend every courtesy to folks that have a balance after that time period. And it sounds like that the amount of folks that did not meet the obligations they agreed to, that number is very small. And Mr. Sutton's with us now
I can assure you, we make every opportunity possible. We take every opportunity possible to either put the individual resident in touch with organizations that will afford them an opportunity to get their account in good standing. We also work as hard as we can. Matter of fact, this evening was a good example. We had our guys stay over late so we could get one person back on this evening that had an issue at their home. Between the meter department, finance department, and electric, we work very hard, not just on occasion, but each day, to make sure we have the absolute bare bones minimum number of our customers with full utilities at the end of the working day.
Well, Mr. Sutton, while you're here, I want to thank you and your crew for working so hard to get everybody back on last night after the incident. And that also goes to show, by having all these substations, how quickly we could get things done. And again, we want to say thank you, and also to Mayor, my power of the community act. So it's more important to know that y'all are doing a good job, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Our guys work extremely hard to serve our citizens. They are a phenomenal group of guys we get a chance to work with each day.
But again, you know, the reason why we have so many substations, so that when power goes down, you know, you need to explain that to people, that we can tap right in and keep going.
It is, and that's what we did last night. We fed off one station, shut the other down, and tied circuits together to make sure everyone stayed in power. We had a small outage for about 30 minutes on a very small part of town, and that was it. And when you looked at the damage that we received, versus the amount of minutes we had an outage on one individual circuit. I like to brag on the guys when I can, and they deserve it. They did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd ask if we would look into asking NTA if they would provide us with some assistance during this period for our citizens that are negatively affected by COVID and the shutdowns and things like that. But I never heard anything else about it.
I'm not aware, and I know Mr. Williams, and Ben, jump in if I misspeak. I know that they're open to discussing, but I don't think they had any bona fide, and Robert, you tell me if you know of any. I don't know that they had any programs specifically in place to address those kinds of things. So,
I mean, I know that this is a new time for all of us. We're all walking into areas that we've never ever explored or expected. And so I figured that if we all pull together, we can all do better. So, you know, I can't see why they couldn't come up with something new to offer, since our citizens are, you know, we're customers, you know.
yes, I just think that, you know, their consideration would be that any programs more than likely would need to be extended to all of their customers, you know, in all of their plans. So I think it was.
Sometimes you don't get because you don't ask.
No, I agree.
Mhm.
I agree.
And so,
I think Terry's basing that primarily on some of the past discussions we've had when one community would ask for something that was quickly followed up by the remainders. And that they've expressed a desire to be consistent across the board with their efforts.
so if you all would bring it up at your meeting,
We'll continue to
I would
work
appreciate
with
it.
them. Absolutely. We have discussed it. Yes.
Because all of us are making, you know, there's so many allowances all of us are making because of the situation in our nation and our world at this time. And I think that this would be something that, you know, we've made concessions. We lowered our utility bills for a couple of months, which everybody really appreciated. But now, you know, of course, we're getting to the point that we're trying to come back to normal. So I would appreciate if we would mention that to them.
We certainly will.
Okay.
Okay, got one more. I got two more.
Okay?
You know, we are having a great task of, and it's great for us to have this opportunity to grow like we've been growing. You know, with the developers coming in town and they want to be part of this life of good life here in the town of Winterville. But we got to be able to accommodate whenever they place something up and it need to be placed back like it was. For instance, like on Beacon Drive. Right there in front of the new structure that we just built on Beacon Drive, there's a place right there on that street.
Yes,
It has
sir.
been cut out and it will tear your car up.
Yes, sir. We have reached out. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I know it's not our street, but that is part of our community now.
I believe we have reached out to the contractor/developer, Mr. Williams. Interject if I get this wrong. That patch is terrible and temporary, and they're supposed to be fixing it.
That is correct. The contractor, we touched base with them previously, and we retouched base with them last week. Just a friendly reminder, and I believe the contractor was trying to line up the equipment to go out there. You know, that asphalt patch was temporary. The whole purpose of that was to allow time to settle, but what we didn't want to do is have to go back out there and leave it with a bunch of rocks. Now, we've got some phone calls on the reverse speed bump, if you will, but the calls we get from having a bunch of rocks out there and then getting the other travel lanes and then having to go back out and replace them, we felt that on that traffic corridor that it was better to do just a temporary patch and let that settle and then come back in and grade it better and patch it with some permanent asphalt in there.
Well, could it have been an easy fix also? Could it be helpful if we just have some sort of warning to let people know that, you know, you are approaching a bad area right there in the street, that you need to, I know the speed limit is always there, but yet and still, even with that speed limit, if you go with the speed limit and hit that area, you will know it. I mean, you know, it's just about to take your car directly to have it checked for a front end alignment.
Ben, can we put a digital sign out there?
We could either do that, or we have, I would have to go back and check, you know, we removed we used to have a sign over, that said dip.
Oh, yes.
So we may go get that out and put that up. Hopefully it'll only be out there for a week.
Yes, something.
Get out there and fix it, but we'll certainly, keep that in mind and, try to do that, the next time we have this situation.
I appreciate that. And also, right there on Tar Road, over there by Speedway, someone placed a safety cone right there in the middle of the street. Have anyone, are we aware of this? It's right there on Tar Road, right after you leave Speedway, going right towards Greenville.
I'm not aware of that. How long has that been out there?
I saw it this afternoon.
Okay, we'll be right by there after this meeting and go take a look and see where that is located.
Councilman Moy, I haven't been that way in a few days, so I haven't seen it.
Yes, I saw it this afternoon.
Well, thank you for letting us know that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else? Items for future agendas, future work sessions. I talked to you, Terry, about the ordinance to establish our Human Relations Council.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see that put on the agenda.
Okay.
And also, I did get a chance to talk to, I forget his name, but he's from the state Human Relations Council. And he said that he had been trying to get in touch with us, but we're so easy to get in touch with, I can't see why. But he offered, you know, I forwarded to everyone on the board, didn't get any replies about it, but he was offering, he said that he would be willing to do training with us on Human Relations Councils. You saw the PowerPoint that he gave, and he's done this with this county. I think it was the 29th, he did training with them. And I'd like to know if our council members would be interested in the training. Yes, no, maybe so? Okay. Okay. Tony, you are, Councilman Moore, excuse me. Hines?
Yeah, I would.
Looking for volunteers?
Moy?
Councilman Moy, I think Mayor Pro Tem Robertson is talking about potential training that the state Human Relations Council folks could potentially do for us as we're getting started on our own council. Would you be interested in that?
Yes.
Okay. I will reach out to him and see if how that would be done and how we might move forward with that. I do know that we're still working on our incorporating documents. Mayor Pro Tem, I had hoped to have that ordinance fully drafted. Unfortunately, it is not complete yet, but I will certainly have it by next meeting. And this is the ordinance just establishing, basically following up for our code, what you all have already done by your earlier vote. It would be outlined much like our other volunteer boards are, just talking about meetings, et cetera, makeup. And then we'll have our bylaws and other documents that we're working on. And once we figure out the composition of the board and potentially who the members would be, then it might be appropriate after all of that to talk about the training. Does that make sense?
It would take a while because of COVID and the
Right.
restrictions that we have with it to get this established. You can't move any faster than what's, what's allowed at this time, and we know it's all for our safety, so.
Well, what I'll do is definitely reach out to him and let him know that we are interested and that we'll be moving forward and staying in touch.
And just as a matter of statistics, he reported to me that there had been over 50 human relations councils in North Carolina at one time. And right before all the COVID stuff, it dropped down to 25. But now with COVID and the unrest that we're seeing, more and more cities and towns are going back, cities and counties, are going back to establishing human relations councils in their neighborhoods. And I do appreciate and thank the people of Winterville for our calm demeanor, and that we've, been able to get through this time without any major disruptions. Okay? Any other items for future agendas, future work sessions? Okay. Reports from department heads. Any of these projects that are any, I think we've been doing it based on if there are any that you want to hear reports on. Any of the members of council?
Does anybody have any council members have any questions on these projects? Thank you, Brian.
Okay. What about the cemetery? Any progress there?
We've had some internal staff work done, but in terms of any official work on the site, we've not just unfortunately had the time, to be quite honest, and we need to try to get our budget straight for that to figure out how we might phase that in.
Unfortunately, we've been seeing a lot of use of those. All right. Anyone else?
We have the dog situation to talk about.
Thank you, Chief. We have, under the police department, a situation that Chief Will Height and I would like to talk to you all about tonight. It involves declaring dogs vicious or dangerous. And there's a state law, and then our local ordinance follows that state law related to dangerous or vicious animals. And I'm going to turn it over to Chief Will Height to sort of give you the intro into what we have, and then we're going to ask for you to appoint some people to do certain things. So with that said, Chief Will Height.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. We've had a location here in Winterville escalate to a point where we're going to need to use not only our ordinance but the state statute to try to address this. At this particular location, in the last 2 years, the officers have had to respond for 2 dogs running at large from the same location, no less than 10 times. And most recently, those dogs attacked other animals, and that seems to be the case every time they get out. Luckily, they're not really people aggressive, but they definitely are animal aggressive. So the state statute outlines an option for us when we've exhausted, and we have exhausted. Obviously we started with verbal warnings, then we started with citations, and this last incident we actually obtained warrants for the owner. But the state law allows us to appoint a designee from the town to actually determine and notify the owner that their dog is being deemed vicious. Then after they have been notified by mail, they have the opportunity to appeal that decision, and they would appeal that to a board. Town manager and I have been speaking about who would sit on that board they would appeal to. And what this does is if their dog is deemed, there's very stringent limitations on how they can let their dog out, it has to be attended to on leash or muzzled. There's things that they have to abide by. They just can't let it out into a fenced-in backyard, because in this situation, that is not keeping the dogs contained. And just last week, it was 2 days in a row. So at this point, it's escalated to the point we need to take further action, and we wanted to speak with you about, I think myself being the authority to deem a dog to be vicious, and then we talk further about who would sit on the board if they appeal that decision, and then if that decision is rendered and they appeal, that would have to be at a Superior Court judge level. So we have a few more teeth other than a town ordinance violation of $25 or whatever it costs.
Could our town board be the board?
I think you all could deem anybody you want to as the board. The only thing I would caution you on is if the whole board serves, then we have to call a meeting every time the board meets. My suggestion was going to be, obviously Chief Will Height be the designee that deems a dog dangerous and vicious, and that the board be comprised of myself and either 2 council members, or myself, the assistant town manager, and a council member, or any makeup. Usually a board of 3 does pretty well. We would.
How about the fire chief?
I think it can be whoever council deems appropriate. Obviously, this appeal board would listen to an animal owner appealing the decision of the police chief, and then if the animal owner wants to appeal the decision of our local appeal board, as Chief Will Height said, then they would have to then appeal to a Superior Court judge.
I'm willing to sit on it. This is Councilman Hines. If I can work a mic, I'm willing to sit on it.
Councilman Hines is interested in sitting on the board?
Yes.
And the town manager and the police chief, that's 3?
Yeah.
The police chief needs to be the separate designee.
Fire chief then.
Okay, Councilman Moore would like to nominate the fire chief.
Fire chief, that's
Okay.
3.
So we got the fire chief,
Town manager.
town manager,
And
and
Councilman Hines.
This has really been a problem. I know I'm afraid of dogs, but I do appreciate the police department and their response to the calls that they receive, and just being in our community. 'Cause right now, I drive, you may not believe it, I drive around the block and get in front of the nursing home, and all you know, I live 2 doors down from the nursing home because of the fact that I can't allow my grandchildren to stand at the bus stop because of vicious dogs. I can't trust them, you know. And I've stayed in my house, which has kept me from working in my yard because of the fact that a bulldog was, you know, able to break loose in our neighborhood. And my neighbor lost some cats. So these things are real. It's really, you know, in our neighborhood. You can have what you want as long as you can control. So
Well,
I do appreciate the police
made-
department and their efforts in this area.
So I made a motion, somebody seconded it.
Okay? Motion by, okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Moore to establish the board, the group to work on this problem in our community. And Mr. Hines seconded. So now we're ready for a vote.
Okay, we'll start the poll with Councilman Moy.
Lord said yes. I do have a question.
Okay?
My question is, the ones that are vicious and the ones that the dog actually attacked, do that mean that both dogs is not on their leash? Even the one that he attacked?
No, in the situation most recently, Mr. Moy, the dogs run at large somehow got into the backyard where the other dog was detained properly and attacked it.
Okay.
A lot of times, a dog that is leashed is attacked by dogs that are not leashed. And now the person's involved as well because they're trying to stop it all. And that's pretty impossible to do.
Okay, all right. Yes.
Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Hines? Mayor Pro Tem Robertson?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
So we have all votes in favor of appointing Chief Wilhite as the town designee for deeming an animal dangerous or vicious, and to create an appeal board for these decisions consisting of the town manager, Councilman Hines, and Chief David Moore. Thank you very much. By the way, I don't know whether historically this had already been done, but I could not find, I definitely know in my tenure here, we have not discussed this issue in terms of actually appointing people. So that's why we felt like it was important to do it, get it done on record so that we can move forward with some of these issues in town.
Okay.
Thank y'all. Thank you, Chief Wilhite.
Any other reports from department heads? Okay.
Have we heard anything on the widening of Tar Road?
Not to my knowledge. I think that thing's on hold for a good long while.
2024.
Anybody comment on that?
I don't believe that anything's scheduled to happen any earlier than, at the earliest, 2024 or later.
Okay, 2024, okay.
They're broke, they don't have money. Government broke them.
It's still going to get better.
Boy, they spend it all on Boyd Street. All right, Don?
We do have quite a list of announcements tonight, so I will run through these. If there are any questions, just let me know. First and foremost, one-stop voting will begin this coming Thursday, and it will run through Saturday, October 30th.
Isn't it 8 to 4 some days? 8 to
Most
3?
days it is. I have, if you'd like a poster, I have a poster in the office. Just send me an email and I'll shoot it over to
I've
you.
got it in my office.
And it's also on the Board of Elections website.
Don, how about let's send it out to the whole council
I will.
and to department heads and other admin staff? And you meant Saturday the 31st, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry if I
And it's
didn't.
one Sunday.
One Sunday there is, and one Sunday there isn't.
November 1st is Sunday. Well, no, I'm not sure which day it is, it's Sunday, but it's one day Sunday.
Okay, the Planning and Zoning Board meeting will be next Monday, October 19th. Board of Adjustment will be next Tuesday, October 20th. Recreation Advisory Board will be Tuesday, October 27th. And November the 1st, we fall back off of daylight savings time. Then the general election day is Tuesday, November 3rd, and town offices are closed Wednesday, November 11th for the volunteer Veterans Day holiday. Excuse me. I would add a point about voting. They, of course, use the community room for one stop, and the Board of Elections has taken a lot of provisions this year for social distancing and everything. And then on Election Day also, and they will have the pavement outside clearly marked, and will be doing the most and everything they can to try to keep everyone safe. I've gotten a number of communications from them, and
Everybody gets a free pen.
I did want to add to that, we are doing a couple of things differently than we've done in the past. We worked, as Don said, closely with the Board of Elections. They've done a good job of getting communications out. In the past, I will say people who are working to support someone running has been able to utilize our restrooms, et cetera, during the day. That will not be available to folks this time around for obvious reasons. So we will continue to get that information out there, and we are basically making sure that the folks working with the Board of Elections in both the community room for One Stop and on election day in both the community room and the Ops Center are as segregated and self-contained. We've given them the tools to be able to heat their lunches, et cetera, whereas it's been a little more open in the past. So everybody's working well together, and we anticipate things moving forward, but it will be a little different.
You said the bathrooms were not open?
Our bathrooms in our buildings will not be open to people who are working in support of candidates. Folks have been able to kind of come in and meander through the building, and currently, we don't plan to allow that.
That's because town hall was not open, right?
Currently, it is
Currently,
not.
right.
I mean, if you all would like to discuss something different, I'm certainly open.
Yes, because I anticipate that we're going to have a large turnout, and the line can be very long. It can be it can be a time span where people have to use the bathroom. And, you have to get out of the line to go home or go to Speedway or someplace else to use the bathroom. And, something needs to be done for that and put in place before the election, before Thursday.
I'd like to see the
Unless we change our mind on the bathroom.
I would encourage the town hall to be open again, since we're in phase 3.
I can't hear you, Mr. Moore.
I would like to encourage the town manager to open the town hall. Other businesses are open, banks are open, post office are open.
I agree. I think there needs to be a game plan to reopen. This is the people's building, they pay for it. Even if it's not full-time, we need to be working towards opening.
Well, I think we've been working towards opening for some time now, but if council wants it open Monday, I'll make it happen.
What was your plan? What did you have a plan to when you were leaning towards opening?
I believe in the email that I sent out to all of you that I stated that with staff, we've talked about it pretty intensely. The plan was to look towards reopening late this month or the first of next month in an effort to try to give an opportunity for some of the numbers to show through other places that are opening. I believe I also included examples of what the other government agencies that we oftentimes utilize as comparisons to, what they're doing, Greenville Utilities, City of Greenville, the county, et cetera.
Because City of Greenville was doing stagnant?
They have partial days. They are open, I believe I'm doing this off memory, 9 to 12, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 1 to 5, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Greenville Utilities is not open, and the county, just by virtue of the types of services they provide, they have a whole array of
I know we're not
differences.
open. We're not open to the public over at the Ag Center. NRCS is only open through appointments. Farm Services is only open through appointments, and we are not open at all with USDA. And going back to the greeters, they got greeters that will be greeting people for the one-stop voting starting on Thursday, because of the facility is such a large facility to accommodate people coming in and out, because they don't want people meandering up and down the halls. So they're going to have greeters there to help assist people coming into the building. So, and our plans are pretty much right now contingent on basically the same what you were saying. Yeah, the numbers, as far as on the federal side.
And in terms of phase 3, I mean, technically, based off of where we were in the beginning, it's a modified phase 3. It's not a full reopening Phase 3, so it's certainly not the fact that we haven't considered being open. I think we would all like to move towards some semblance of normalcy, but I'll be very honest, without getting specific, I have dealt with a COVID-related issue amongst our employees and their family every day since Thursday of last week.
Wow.
So, I mean, just to give you an example of, it hasn't gone away, and we can't stay closed forever, obviously, but I don't think I have to remind folks that it wouldn't take very much to render a department or a large section of our workforce, small workforce, incapable of working for as long as 2 weeks, depending on what the situation would be. And that's all we've been trying to do, is stave that off and be as careful as possible.
And Terry, the more I support what you guys were saying, because what I was speaking of during the election, I had in mind Publix and Porta-Johns or something like that to place on the outside. And if, you have to put a sign out there and say that, if you have to use the bathroom or something, that it'd be at your own risk. But the town hall, you see where I'm at. And, everybody's situations are different. I wish everybody's situation was on the same level. Then we wouldn't have no issue or no problem. But everybody's problem and situation are different. So we have to put in mind to accommodate everybody. So I agree with what you have in place. I think you have to continue on doing it. I support you on it, This just more, you see where I'm at, I have seen too many things happening. I mean, right recently, within the last 2 or 3 days.
I would like to say that I am not aware that any service has not been offered and or extended to any citizens needing said service. So obviously we've had some hiccups with some trash pickup in the last couple of weeks, but that's certainly, we work with a private contractor and they've been very responsive in trying to fix any hiccups that have occurred. And we're doing our level best to continue to make sure our required services are certainly provided, and even some of our ancillary services that we are providing on a by appointment basis, and I speak of child safety seat checks, fingerprinting, some of those services that aren't required, but that we do offer and provide that large service, to citizens who need it. So that's just a quick update of some of that. But again, staff will respond and do what the council expects us to do.
If Porta-Johns were placed out there, would the town have to be responsible for them?
I'm sorry, Councilman Moy. Say that one more time.
During the election, if Porta-Johns were placed out there, would the town be responsible for them?
I think we would certainly be responsible for providing them, but that's definitely an option, a viable option.
Could we talk to the elections board about that?
Sure.
I think that we might need to have a conversation with the elections board about that. Additional expense, because we are a site for early voting. And that would be an extra expense for the town.
They were given millions of dollars to take care of things like this.
That would be related to COVID. So,
We'd definitely be glad to have that discussion.
I'm quite sure.
Oh, yes.
There will be people out there working for candidates, working for parties, working on issues and that kind of thing. And a lot of them will be out there all day long. And so it might be that they would need to relieve themselves. So that would be usually, like you said, that usually the town hall is open and they can come in. But with things the way they are.
I'd like to make a motion that staff have a plan to reopen town hall November the 1st, 20 hours a week, with, of course, mandatory mask wearing and hand sanitizing when you come in the door.
I second that.
Question. Would that call for an addition staffing, because you have to have someone at that door at all time to make sure that you check their temperature, make sure they have, if they do not have a mask, that you have masks provided for them.
There's a lot of places I go in every day that don't check my temperature, but I have to wear a mask and they have hand sanitizer at the front doors.
Well, we
But
are,
we are talking about our town hall. We're talking about for this town of Winterville. I mean, to me, it's very important that we do all we can to do the right thing for our staff. And that means that if we don't allow someone to come in, they need to be checked.
I think at least the mandatory masks, if we are able to deny in-house service, i.e. direct them to the drive-through, if they refuse to wear a mask, if we have your unanimous support to do that, then I am willing to forego the requirement for any temperature screening.
Could we add to that the condition that statewide mandates do not, how can I say, are not in opposition to that? It might be, I don't want it to be, of course I don't want it to be, but it might be that we have a rise in cases and we have to go back on the statewide mandates. We may have to go back to phase 2. So could we include that? Could we add that as a condition, Mr. Smith? That we would, as long as it does not conflict with the statewide mandates?
Sure.
Thank you.
We don't have any choice in that anyway.
Yeah, I know, but I just would like to
Choice in that.
have it. Mhm.
I mean, you know, if you,
I want to be sure about that myself, because, you know, some municipalities and some agencies have enacted things that were against what the state was requiring.
you know, if you go into the hospital, they're gonna have someone at the door. They're gonna make sure that you got your mask on, and they're gonna check your temperature. That is very important. Not just, it's for you too, the people who are entering.
But there's a difference.
Not even talking about our staff.
Could we do it for the hours, if we limited the hours that we were open?
In his motion is 20 hours a week.
Yes.
So that was in his motion, 20 hours a week. So that's going to limit our hours anyway, correct, Terry?
It will, and if I'm bluntly honest about temperature checks, most of these places that are performing temperature checks are using these thermal thermometers.
Right.
Our experience, because we've been using those to screen our employees, they are far less accurate than other methods for taking temperatures. That's why, Councilman Moy, I am not as tied to quote-unquote screening customers if in fact you all support mandated masks and that we can refuse indoor or inside service to those not wanting to wear a mask. And I don't mean refusing service, I just
Right.
mean refusing indoor service.
Indoor, redirect it
Correct, then.
redirect it
To the drive-through.
drive-through.
If you agree with that, and your staff agree with that, yes, I support that.
Okay. You make it.
Call for the question.
Who seconded?
I second, Ricky Hines
Motion
second the
was
motion.
made by Councilman Smith pertaining to the reopening, and the specifics are in the motion, and was seconded by Councilman
Councilman Hines.
Hines. All right, you ready for the poll?
Oh, yes, thank you. We'll start with Councilman Moy.
That's with the mask, if that's correct. I didn't hear what was the motion.
If I believe the motion is for staff to have a plan to reopen, and the plan will include most of these things added in Mr. Smith's motion, on November 1st, for 20 hours a week, to include requiring now if this wording's not good, let me know, to include requiring customers that come in the building to wear masks. If they refuse to wear a mask, then we will just redirect them to our drive-through service. And, did I miss anything?
Hand sanitizer at the door.
Oh, yes, we already have that at the door, so, we will,
And that means that you're gonna have a staff member at the door?
we will have to have we will have to have folks monitoring kind of what's going on. So we'll talk amongst ourselves to try to figure out the best way to,
Rotate the staff.
yes, yes.
Yes, as long as your staff, as long as you agree with that and your staff, I mean, cause you all are the ones that's working there. You are the one that helped this town continue on being operated in the way that we have been in this, condition. So if y'all feel good about it, I say yes.
Well, thank you. Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Hines? Mayor Pro Tem Robertson?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
If I could say, I just want to thank council. You guys have been unanimously supportive through this whole very strange process, and as we continue through this very strange process. It has been sort of I feel like we're playing whatever the whack-a-mole, I think that's the game I want to reference, and I'm sure everybody's going through the same thing. So we will continue to be communicative as we get into our fall and winter months, but we thank you and continue to thank you for your support, and we will make sure that we have a good plan, and that will be, we may require customers to wear masks, but obviously we're going to be wearing them too on the employee side of things. So before November 1st, we'll have the written plan out to all of you, just for your knowledge.
Okay. Did we finish the announcements? Sorry, I had to take a break. Okay. Reports from the town attorney. We do recognize our town attorney is not here. We do extend our sympathy to his family for their loss during this time.
His mother-in-law passed away, and he was very apologetic, but the funeral was today and out of town, and I certainly think they wanted the opportunity. He and I talked at length to be able to attend the services and then visit, which is certainly understandable. So he knows that we're all praying for him and keeping him in our thoughts.
And I found out today that today was Indigenous Peoples Day in North Carolina. The day we honor our Native Americans here in North Carolina. Talked about all the tribes, I can't pronounce them, but the different tribes that we have in North Carolina and their contributions, of course, to our society as we have it today. Most of us, I remember being I was fifth grade social studies teacher forever, it seems. And the first question I would ask the children when we studied Native Americans was, how many of you are descended from Native Americans? Do you know every child in that room, hand went up? And that's how proud they were to be Native Americans. And most of us are very proud of it. It doesn't always show up in us, but we feel like it's a proud heritage. And so we salute our citizens that are Native Americans here in Winterville, North Carolina. We don't always recognize you as any different because you're the original Americans. So hats off to you.
Yes.
Town Council. Start with Mr. Moore.
Nothing to say.
Okay. Mr. Hines.
First of all, I'd like to say Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm wearing my breast cancer pin for all people that had to deal with this crazy stuff called cancer. So support anybody that's going through, and support any agency that needs any help with this breast cancer. And the other thing too is basically I'm a recovering person from COVID, and I understand everybody's concerned because I don't wish this on anybody. The battle I went through was something. So, you know, precaution, precaution, precaution. Take heed. It's something that it doesn't care about the size of your wallet, the color of your skin. COVID would take you out of here. So just be mindful, mask up, wash your hands, and stay 6 feet apart. And then also to the tribe that I've worked with was the Holowassa Ponies out of Halifax. As a great tribe, so congratulations to them on Indigenous Day.
Mrs. Smith? Okay. Mr. Moy?
Yes, I see that the work has been completed at Hillcrest. I was told that they had a ceremony, I think last Sunday or Sunday before last. I missed it because I was out of town. I have had some very, very good positive comments on it. And I have heard some, and I have received some very negative comments on it. All thing I can say now is there. We hope that it does make a difference. That's my prayer.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
And as an announcement, MEDS thrift store, and they're having a cold weather clothing, blanket, and soup and sandwich on Saturday from 10 to 2. And everybody's invited to come by. It's in the back there. Garage people will let them use the space. And they're actually going to have giveaways for that, and of course soup and sandwich. So town people just come by and speak, whatever. Glad to have it. Town manager?
If my memory serves me correct, a majority of you may have had recent birthdays or have birthdays that are upcoming. So I wish all of you that have had recently or are having one soon, happy birthday. What a very interesting time to have a birthday. But we hope that you did enjoy and will be enjoying your birthday. So I was going to sing, but I'll save you all that pain this evening.
I make a motion that manager sing to us.
You really don't want me to go there. But that is all I wanted to say this evening. Thank you.
Just so everybody knows, Tony and I share birth months. Which
And
year
Mark.
of Tony?
March 1st.
Mark did? That's right.
He turned a big number.
Really?
He joined us. 30.
He's in the club.
Well, I'm proud of my 68.
So basically,
Everybody,
There.
yes, I was going to say, so you are all,
So that's a requirement for office and
Yeah, it was
That's
required
right.
for office in
You're a
Winterville.
yes, sir.
I just want to say also, press, I know that Mr. Robinson said something about our Mayor Jackson. Our prayer definitely goes out to him and his family. And also, if you remember Mr. Shamley, he was a very active citizen that passed away probably about 2 years ago. We just got word that his daughter passed away this morning. So keep the Shamley family in prayer.
We definitely will do that. And I had the distinct honor and surprise of having a phone call from the mayor last week. And he sounded really good and very upbeat and positive, and he's ready to get home, as you can imagine. So we're all looking forward to that. Thank you.
Okay.
I make a motion.
There you go.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All right, it's been made, motion by Mr. Hines, seconded by Mr. Moore, that we adjourn. Ready for the poll?
Okay, Councilman Moy.
Yes.
Councilman Moore.
Yes.
Councilman Hines. Mayor Pro Tem Robertson and
Yes.
Councilman Smith. Thank you. We are all in agreement to adjourn. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was a light that I mailed to one of them. It was back in my packet again.
Done it now, man.
I like this.